chapters at a glance. I'll give you a second to read the names and then I'll talk about each specifically. Alright, so the first chapter of my dissertation is tentatively titled Arabic Music, an Instrument of the Nation. So this chapter examines several axioms that I've identified in my research about the relationship between music and the nation state, or specifically Arabic music and the nation state. These axioms include the idea that music should serve the purposes of the state and be used as a tool or instrument to inspire nationalism, elevate culture, morality, taste, etc. On the flip side, I found the axiom that it's the duty of the state to protect and promote Arabic music, whether by using media, education, and other institutions to generate national and pan-Arab national sentiment. So this relates to the idea that it's the state's responsibility to raise the social status of music and musicians. Prior to the reform movement among members of the upper class that I mentioned, musicians were typically part of the elitiyya sect of professional instrumentalists in a ta'ifa, or professional guild, typically lower in socioeconomic rank than members of the reform movement. And I think even today, like sometimes the word eliti is used with a kind of derogatory, is that like a negative connotation that is class-based, I think, too. So finally, in this chapter, I examine how Arabic music is used instrumentally, like with a specific purpose, to either shift or reinforce national and cultural identities. So one example is like the term Arabic music itself was first adopted around the 20s and 30s, replacing the term that had existed before, which is Eastern music. So previously, like the taht itself is an Ottoman Arab ensemble that was widespread throughout the Ottoman region. So you can see kind of a deliberate attempt to shift away from this regional association of the East, right, towards a specifically national ethnic identity of Arab. Okay, so this chapter lays the groundwork for my second chapter, which is entitled The Arab Spirit and National Sentiment / Sentimentality. And the subtitle is Gender and Socio-Temporal Hierarchies. I'll probably change that, that's way too long. So the idea of the Arab or Eastern or Egyptian spirit in Arabic music has surfaced countless times in my research. And so far, I've noticed that there are two primary views that are held. The first is that Arabic music reflects the Arab spirit, at least in principle, whereas the second view holds that Arabic music doesn't reflect, but rather generates and shapes the quote-unquote Arab spirit. So these reflective and generative views are intersecting. For example, in the early 20th century, many critics argued that traditional Arabic music reflected and generated an effeminate, sentimental spirit characterized by slowness and lamentation, whose only function was to satisfy primitive instincts. And this comes up all over, like really up through the 50s and 60s, this criticism of Arabic music. So there were calls for reform in Arabic music, including through instrumentation, to generate instead a spirit of national pride, masculinity, progress, and a fast-paced modern life. So, in other words, going back to this idea of reflective and generative, there was the sense that Arabic music reflected negative qualities in the Arab or Egyptian personality, depending on who's writing. But the reformers also believed in music's ability to generate what they saw as positive attributes, so to use it instrumentally as a tool to change society. To give you an example, when the former president of the Republic of Egypt, Mohammed Naguib, attended the first meeting of the High Music Council, which was established in 1952, he called upon the council to advance Arab music to, quote, compensate for the backwardness and stagnation of the music